Empanadas, not warm, para nada. Empanadas or pastries were not a home dish, but they were rather bought at street stalls. Stout women who lived on the outskirts came to the city area carrying their baskets full of empanadas, and they usually sold them there. Naturally, when the empanadas made it, they were rather cold. There were empanadas before 1810, and they were something to eat along the way. Additionally, there were sweet pies or pastelitos dulces, although we do not know what shape they had. There were salty and sweet pies, the latter filled with sweet potato, tomato, and orange or peach jelly.
Here's a fun fact about the well-known Argentine Week of May, a week during which some of the most significant events in the history of Argentina took place. On Tuesday the 22nd, members at the Cabildo Abierto, an open session at the Cabildo, met from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. without a single break in between. Hence, they decided to ask for food to be delivered to them. An innkeeper called Andrés Verdial brought biscuits, bottles of wine, and hot cocoa to the 200 people there. This was almost the beginning of modern delivery.
Long before different types of sweets existed, and long before ice cream was eaten, the preparation of a food similar to the ice cream as we know it today depended on the climate back then, as it was made with hail. The favorite dessert of children in colonial Argentina was mazamorra. This mixture of white corn, ground sugar and raw milk was eaten at every time of the day. Furthermore, the image of the mazamorrero, a mazamorra street vendor, was very popular, since these men toured the streets on horseback, carrying jars to the cry of "Thick mazamorra for the table." Besides, the quality of the milk they sold was much better than the milk provided for home consumption, as it was not diluted in water during the milking process. Although the first Spanish conquerors had introduced wine to Argentina, and even when it was made in Mendoza and San Juan, it was certainly not often drunk in the gatherings known as tertulias, or family meetings that began at around 8 p.m. and lasted until dawn. On these occasions, dances and talks were enjoyed with pancakes, mate, and hot cocoa.
Wine was drunk at noon, since the food served at lunchtime was much more abundant than the courses at dinner time. A popular variety of wine was the so-called Calón, first imported and later produced in vineyards in Cuyo. Mainly, this variety was made from Creole grapes, which had been used first before the arrival of French grapes. A fact that would shock any contemporary feminists today is that the ones allowed to drink wine were usually men. Ladies could only get to enjoy a glass of red wine from time to time, at a banquet or on private occasions.
As shocking as it may sound, the Argentine beef, which is the nation's pride today, was once a delicacy of stray dogs and rats. It's not that it was of poor quality. Incredibly enough, because of the abundance of livestock and the impossibility of exporting or preserving butchered cattle, a lot of beef ended up fattening rodents. Livestock kept increasing in number, and although people's diet was based primarily on beef, there was just too much cattle. One person could kill and butcher a cow on the street and make himself a little fire to cook it, and then the food leftovers were for the rats.
Daniel Balmaceda, author of La Comida en la Historia Argentina, Food Timeline in the History of Argentina, argues that in 1810, locro was eaten all along our current territory. Of Quechua origin, the dish spread from the area of Upper Peru to the south, and everyone had their own recipe. In his book, he also describes the vendors at the Recoba, a building on the Fence Street. There, locro was offered in steaming pots to those who did not want to invest time and work in a preparation that could take several hours, he says.
In contrast, Karina Perticone, a researcher at the National University of Arts, says that there are no official records to prove that locro was eaten in Buenos Aires city in 1810. At that time, porteños who lived within the urban zone would prefer Spanish dishes to Creole recipes. Locro already existed, but it was eaten in Córdoba, in Tucumán, and in the north of Santa Fe.